Okay, as I've said many times, the internet to me is a place to express myself and get feedback. My strongest areas of expertise, for example, areas where I actually get paid to use my built up knowledge. I don't use the internet to talk about those things. I discuss those things, in my professional circle and with my colleagues. And I might change that actually because, there's various stages in what a person goes through, and maybe I should brain dump all of that stuff. But if I did, I'd still do it in a different channel, or because I really don't want to convince people with expertise, and so I'm not going to bring like arguments from authority into my philosophy. Now, I have as much confidence in my philosophy as I have in my these professional skills. But still, it's different because in philosophy we preserve the ability of the non-expert to have an opinion. They might not be able to state their opinion well, but they can give you raw information, which if you are the expert philosopher, that you can process and clean up. You can see that, well, maybe their presentation had a fallacy in it, but it doesn't need that fallacy, so I can take that fallacy out, put something in place of it, and see what their argument would be like if they did have more expertise. Okay. But having said that, I do want to convince anarchists of something. And I still don't think I will convince them. I mean, I just have not ever seen that. People change themselves. It's rather slow. I don't argue with people to change their minds right then. But I plant a seed if I can. And the seed is this: I'm surprised at the number of anarchists among these capitalist types that don't reject hierarchy. I mean, I had one guy couldn't decide really if he wanted to talk to me or not, but he did talk to me for a while, telling me that it was bullshit to be against hierarchy. That if the hierarchy was, appropriate, like a meritocracy or the right person, or it was voluntary, that it would be okay. But that doesn't make sense at a logical level because hierarchies are command and control structures, okay? They're ways of networking human beings for the purpose of command and control. So just roll that around in your brain there with your volunteerism and your free markets. Think about how are you going to build freedom from a command and control structure. I mean, a command and control structure, if you voluntarily enter it, you're giving up your subsequent voluntary rights because you're in a command and control structure. You've agreed to take commands. So how could you be free? You've agreed to take commands by entering into that structure. The fact that it was voluntary doesn't matter, especially since we're mortal beings. A voluntary choice is a multiple choice. Like, I can be a slave in old Europe, or I can sell myself into indentured servitude in old New York. I mean, those kind of multiple choices are voluntary. They don't necessarily lead to freedom. I mean, if you're choosing which slave plantation you get to be a slave on, that one moment of voluntary decision does not make you a free person. If you're voluntarily entering into a subservient position in a hierarchy, you're voluntarily giving up your freedom. So if you want to maximize freedom, if you're really concerned with having freedom as a result, then the market anarchy stuff can't work. If you aren't thinking in terms of results, I do understand where it's coming from. The Ayn Rand was not thinking in terms of getting the results of a lot of free people, not in my opinion. She was interested in justifying why the people that have disproportionate control have disproportionate control. She doesn't want to increase, or didn't, freedom, in my view. She just wanted to create a really good excuse for not letting people be free and calling it freedom. So, I'd like you to think that over. Hierarchy is a command and control structure. There are other ways to organize power. Many, many other ways. In fact, hierarchy, we just impose. We picture things as hierarchies. They aren't really, strictly speaking, hierarchies. To really understand, by the way, what I'm talking about with hierarchy, you need to understand a little bit of graph theory, which probably maybe many of you don't. But there's a very specific definition of hierarchy in graph theory, which has to do with how the nodes in your network are connected. And anyway, all right.